This is an introduction to the NETMAR Service Chaining Editor. If you'd like more information about the project itself, please go to netmar-project.eu. The Service Chaining Editor is part of the UMIS portal, which can be found at umis.nersk.no. To access the Service Chaining Editor, click on the Workflows tab on the top bar. The Service Chaining Editor will open, showing a welcome screen and its default canvas. It's made up of about 4 components. We have the canvas itself, on which you draw your workflows. To the left, we have the workspace management, which provides local storage for your workspaces as you save them. You can save, you can load them from the local storage, you can delete from the local storage, and you can clear the canvas. This is all stored locally within the browser, so you can return to it later. You can also export your workflows either in Taverna format or within the NETMAR XML format to be used within this editor again, and you can email the NETMAR XML to any email address from the page directly. You can also import NETMAR XML into this editor and run it there. And we can see the Run tab where you click on Run to actually run the service. In the middle, we have the configuration and preferences for the Service Chaining Editor, which has simple appearance controls such as snap to grid and whether it automatically reloads workspaces when you reload the window. And finally, on the right, we have the list of services which we can use to build our workflows. This can be populated from the drop down here, and we can load a predefined WSDL file containing the services we want to use, or you can add a WSDL file if you know the URL that you wish to use. So we have here a little welcome window which pops up when we start the Service Chaining Editor, which we can get rid of, and we're now ready to start building our first service chain by dragging the services from the service list on the right onto the canvas and then joining them up. So for instance, if we want to build a simple service chain which will fetch some model data from the MRCS model and display it on the screen, then we can just do that by dragging. We need an input which will tell us what we want to import. We're going to do a fetch MRCS. Now we need to convert the output from the fetch MRCS to a ping because the browser won't display the GeoTIFF which is provided by the fetch MRCS process. And that GeoTIFF needs to be decoded in order to be displayed because it's returned as a encoded XML. And finally, we need to specify we want some service output. So now, if we join those up, so we have the data input for the fetch, which feeds into the conversion to a ping, which is then decoded, and finally provided as output, we now have our first service chain. The only thing we need to add is the date for which we want to recover data, and if we pick a date, we're now in a position to run the service chain. So we just select the Run tab, click on Run, and you can see here it gives us some feedback. The workflow was loaded and started almost immediately and is now operating. This is being run on a separate workflow server on the internet, and the results will be provided back as links to this service editor, and we'll be able to click on those to actually display the output. So here we are, we see we have one output and we can view it in the editor, and that is the image that has been returned. If we wish, we can save this workflow locally within the editor or within the browser as demo 1, and we can use that later. We could also, if we wished, export it directly to XML or email it to the person of our choice. That concludes this brief introduction to the Service Chaining Editor. The second part of this series will show you how to build more complex workflows using the import and export functions to share workflows.